hello@unlockyourdesign.com in the contacts. So that's how to overcome that little glitch or problem. But if you're still having issues with receiving the emails, you can reach out to me, or at the end of this, I'll be posting all of the worksheets and replays in one place so that you have them. But for now, anybody that has registered, you get emails in the morning and then emails right at 3 when we're going to start, so that you have these reminders to let you know that this is happening today so that you can join us. And again, my name is Ashley, and this is Bella with me, and we are going to help you break through in your relationships by allowing you to see through the lens of these different archetypes. We have all 6 of these archetypes within us, and it's just up to you to figure out what's more alive and apparent inside of you, so that you can shift into the higher frequency, and also notice the shadow frequencies by using your mindfulness. So we're going to give you a bunch of different examples and descriptions of each of these archetypes so you can connect into them and utilize them, because they want to be used, and they are just 6 faces of the same thing. Like, they're all the same thing, right? When you look at them, it's like this, like different faces of a gem, and we're just looking at each individual one. And you're going to have an alchemy of all of these. It's not just one, oh, I'm the creator, or I'm the dancer. It's a bunch of them. Would you add anything to that, Bella?
Nope.
Okay, so today is day 2, and like I said, we are going into the Dancer archetype. And for those of you that are familiar with Human Design and Gene Keys, I think for the purpose of you guys knowing this, it's line 2. But again, don't fixate on the lines. Use your intuition to feel into, how does this show up for me? Because even if you only have one line 2, it's probably like wherever you have that line 2, it's going to come in hot and heavy. So it's probably still going to be expressed. Same thing with all the others. So I'm just going to share really quickly the workbook, the worksheet. Now there's 2 pages for this one. So this is the Dancer archetype. This is what you'll receive in your email. You have notes to put the highest expression, the shadow. Here's some notes that you can take. And then I have a bunch of questions for contemplation that you guys will be able to do after. So when you're done and you're contemplating and you're ready to just like step into this archetype, you're going to ask yourself, okay, here's these questions. What is the dancer? How does the dancer move? How does the dancer think? How does the dancer speak? Like, what does the dancer do? And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you're going to really have a sense for the dancer's role in relationships. Okay, so last thing before we get started, if you feel like anyone would benefit from this and you're on Facebook, share this out. Tag anybody that you think that maybe is the dancer or is in a relationship with the dancer or would like this series, so that this is your invitation to invite. Okay, now without further ado, so day 2 we call Magic Mirror. This is mirror, mirror on the wall. Why do we have the analogy or the metaphor of the mirror, Bella? Why is the mirror so significant for the dancer?
I kind of always look at spiral dynamics. So when we have those archetypes, like we were saying yesterday, they're like layers on top of each other. So each archetype, like each day, the archetype that is in that day is going to be a little bit like a reaction, you could say, to the one before. So if the first one had to do with earth, had to do with individuality, had to do with self-empowerment, now this is kind of like the circle goes, and this is like almost like the pendulum swings, you could say. So here it's all about 2 and not 1, and passion and relationships is really what it is about. And of course, the way that relationships happen is that we mirror ourselves in the others, and this archetype really learns about itself by looking at the other person and mirroring, reflecting back by itself. This is both a curse and a blessing in a way. Like we saw yesterday, there's both a shadow expression and a healthy expression. So in the healthy expression, you really have passion, relationship, mirroring, reciprocity, learning about yourself through relationship. And in the shadow frequency, maybe you can't really have that reciprocity. You're not able to really open up at the vulnerable level. You might expect a lot from the other, whether you are overgiving or undergiving. So it's a lot about relationship, and it's kind of very opposite. Here we would have the water element. So this archetype in a positive way wants to flow, wants to be in ease, wants to be naturalness. It's a little bit of reaction. The first line wanted to investigate, wanted to make sure that it's safe, wanted to make sure all these things. Whereas the second archetype really, it's more about ease, flow, passion. I just wanted to feel natural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is very much about relationships, and we'll often see that the second archetype, the dancer, it wants to be in relationship. It wants to dance with someone. It's not about dancing by itself. It's about dancing with someone. And just like the dancer, like when you're practicing dancing, you know how you like dance in front of the mirror as well to see like how you're moving and if the moves are right. Well, it's the same thing in the relationship. That other person is the mirror for you. And so when we see the dancer in a shadow expression, it's going to be the accuser. Oh, you're not moving the right way. You're off step, you're off beat, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. So it's very much pointing the blame and the finger at the other person. But if you can just imagine it, this person's dancing with the mirror. And so it's its own steps. It's its own reflection of what's happening. Now, like I said yesterday, it doesn't mean necessarily that exactly what's happening outside of itself is what's inside. So if that person's selfish, then that must mean you're selfish. It's not always like identical with what's happening. You might be filling the role of like allowing maybe you're filling the role of allowing somebody to walk all over you and the other person is walking all over you. That doesn't mean that you do that to the other person. It's just there's an imbalance somewhere. And that's what these relationships are here to show you, is how can you come into harmony? How can you come into the dance? Because the dancer is very natural. So the highest expression, the role it wants to fill is to be the natural. But sometimes it fills the role of the accuser. Because when it's not feeling the flow, when it's not feeling the naturalness, it's going to blame the other person and say, you're the one who's not natural. You're the one who needs to remember the routine and the choreography. How come you're not on the same page as me? And I think that it's not only that it loves like to be in relationship, it loves the art of relationship. So when that's not happening, it's going to get angry because its passion is in relationships. And when the other person is not doing the relationship the right way, they're going to get angry. And that's the emotion that'll come up, is aggression and anger for the dancer. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me laugh. I like this archetype. I kind of, I have some of it in myself. I just feel like it's much more fun than the creator.
No, let's make this fun. What makes the dancer fun? Do you guys feel like you kind of can resonate with the dancer? Do you have that urge to be in partnership where the creator is more about creation and being that individual and investigating alone? Do you feel like you just long for that union, you just long for that intimacy, you just long for that partnership? That's where you're going to tell that second archetype is coming up, because it wants that. Where
it wants to be able to merge and feel like there is a fluidity in the merging. So if it wants to do this and it's merged with somebody who's stiff, it's going to react to that. It's going to be really, one of the challenges here is the disappointment that it feels in relationship. So the way that we say for the dancer is to, when you go into relationship, it's like really the worst thing you can do basically is to go in and say, this is what I need from you. Because it's going to be, it's like it's setting a stage of going into relationship because of a need, and not because first I'm fulfilled in myself, I'm balanced in myself, I have my inner feminine, my inner masculine. No, it's like I'm coming to you because I need something. And when the second archetype relates from that space, it's actually setting up for disappointment. So what we wanted to do is really to fulfill its own ease, naturalness, flow, everything first. And then when it feels fulfilled in itself, balanced, fulfilled in flow and ease, then it's perfect to invite another dancer. really like, if you don't know how to dance tango in a way, you kind of
Yeah.
want to learn first before you go and tell somebody to dance and then say that that's the person who steps on your toes, but basically you don't know the rhythm yet. So you want to spend time, even if you're not the loner, and maybe it's even hard for you to spend time on your own. We want the second line to actually understand a bit about, like, sometimes that obsessive need of being in relationship, of being not so much in relationship, like being intertwined with the other, actually being able to be independent and enter relationship correctly, and being able to not put too much weight on the relationship, because that can be tough for the other person.
We can see codependency coming up in the dancer as well. They're like, oh, but I need a partner. I need a partner to dance the dance. And just like all these archetypes build on each other, like Bella was saying, you have to be independent in yourself before you can come and say, I'm ready for a partnership. Because if there's still something inside of you that says, this is a hole, this is incomplete, I haven't mastered this, or I don't want to master this, somebody else do this for me, that's where you're trying to like bring somebody in to fill the hole. And it's not about filling any kind of hole. It's about adding two and merging so that 1 + 1 is 2, not half and half is 1. That's not how you approach the relationship.
And I also want to say that if you are a dancer archetype, it's okay to be picky. If we think about the dancing situation again, it's like you go to dance and there are a lot of dancers, and the second archetype is going to be picky in who it wants to dance with. It has a talent, it has some naturalness. Probably it doesn't have to learn all the techniques of dance, it just has that natural flow, and it's not going to be able or even want to connect and dance with anybody. So it's okay to be a little bit of a hermit. It's okay to kind of stay in your zone until you feel like, okay, that person, it's worth to do it with. So in one way, it's a little bit like we said yesterday, to kind of, it might not be from the beginning that you find that person that is a complete mirror. It's going to take some time to really be able to have that dance together.
Mm-hmm. And then Julia was saying, what if you've become super indifferent and no longer get angry? I pulled a card before we got on, and it was the 39, which is provocation, dynamism, and liberation. And so I looked up to see what the repressive and reactive patterns are, because oftentimes I feel like when you get so used to being angry, eventually you start to shut it down, and then you just, the shadow or the repressive frequency of the 39 is defeatist. And so it's like you're just like resigned. You're like, okay, like I can't win here, and then you don't even get angry. But I feel like too, indifference is even like lower than anger, because it's neutral. And it's not neutral in like a positive way. It's that there's no charge at all. It doesn't care whether this happens or that happens. And so what needs to happen is there needs to be like the fire needs to get turned up even more for you to start feeling again, because that anger can get turned into passion. And that passion is what the dancer works with. It's the fuel of the dancer. But if you don't have the passion, then the dancer's not going to want to dance. And then eventually, like if you're in a relationship, you'll just be like, it's not going to get any better than this. This is what it is. And then you don't even hold space for anything different, or you don't even like ask for what it is, like what other dance you want to dance. You're like, oh, we're just always going to do the box step, and that's it. And I think the dancer can get super like, it wants that passion. It wants that movement, and not everybody dances the same way. Like Bella was saying, it's okay to be picky. Maybe you like tango, or maybe you like the waltz, or whatever it is you like, what you like. And not every relationship is going to be able to offer that to you. But if you have conscious communication with your partner, you can say, hey, you want to try this with me because it really interests me.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of feeling like there's only one dance for you. But when you get into that place of indifference, I think it's time to separate and reset again. You go back to the one. Like if you feel like there's stagnancy and there's stuff not happening with the dancer, you go back and you be the creator. And then you figure out what you want as a creator, and then you come into the relationship empowered and you say, I want to dance the freaking tango. It's what I want to do. No more of this waltz and box step and boringness. I'm not saying that that's boring, but that's what this dancer would say. So yes.
And I don't recognize the the dancer archetype so much as getting indifferent. I would say this is something that happens more with archetype 4, the lover, or archetype 6. We are really still in the lower part of, if we speak about chakras and body, we are still in the lower. So now we're in the sacral, in the movement of water. So, and it's hard for water to be still. It's more like water is in movement. So it's more kind of, the second line can create overreaction, or it actually drew the card provocation. That's very much the second line. It doesn't really, it can't stand that kind of nothing moving. So it's kind of going to create some projection or something so that things stir up, because at least then it feels like there is like something is happening there. It's alive. It's not dead. It can't take being dead. And it's funny if you have like a first archetype, second archetype, the loner, and like it can be, the loner can kind of just close down and kind of be like this, and then you have the dancer is like ah, and it can be really fun because like nothing can really happen. It's kind of locked down in those shadow patterns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I see the dancer as an artist. I see the dancer that likes this, like they want to be involved and engrossed in their art, in their craft, in their person. Their whole life can center around this relationship too. And I feel like if you are to box off this person and say, no, you can't be in relationship, or no, you can't write, you can't dance, that would like really close off the life force. And I almost feel like it would be very, very detrimental to their health. You know, these people thrive in relationships. These people thrive dancing um, with the other. They want to have that partnership. So I think that um, if you have this dancer archetype in you, I think you're meant for someone else. There is someone for you. There's a perfect person for you. You're not here to be at it alone. So if you feel very upset and like, oh, it's just not for me, like I'm not going to find that person or the one. No, they're out there. You just have to put yourself out there. You have to go dancing. You have to be noticed. You can't hide yourself in the hermit land. You kind of have to get out. And you'll find that people will call you out. You know, you're not on a desert island where no one can have communication with you. Like Bella said, they're going to be knocking at your door saying, come out, come out. The hermit can't stay a hermit forever. People will pull them out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Do you guys have any questions for us about the dancer? We have more to talk about, but I wanted to pause and see.
I have something when it comes to emotional plane. I feel it's important because since it has kind of a lot of energy in it, when something happens emotionally and there is not complete understanding with another person, a really good thing can be to say, okay, let's kind of create a space together where I get to speak and you listen, and then we shift. I want to hear you and I want you to hear me. And when I speak, please let me speak and be present with me. And the same thing I'll do with you. And then you kind of take turns, because it can get heated, and you can forget to be polite and courteous when you have this dancer in you, and in that projection field that can be, that can be hurt. So really to be like, it's not just my voice or not just your voice. It's like, it's a kind of song, a kind of dance between our voices. That's important. And to kind of listen to yourself as well, because when the dancer is hurt, it can actually be quite hurtful back to the person that it perceives has hurt it.
Mm-hmm. Lisa says, what are good ways to help your partner wake up? I am a dancer and my husband is not at all. Lots of blame and frustration. What do you feel like would be the solution or helpful for that?
I mean, I know a lot of dancers that feel, and probably also do, but they feel like they are giving so much in a relationship. They're trying so hard. They're like helping, because there's like a natural awakening in many dancers. It's just like happens. They don't have to study it or investigate it. It's like it just happens. So they can feel like they are shouldering more and doing more in the relationship than the other. What I have seen, especially from being in a relationship with the dancer, is that sometimes everything you're trying, yeah, you think you're doing everything, but actually that's not really what I feel is conducive to me or the relationship. So sometimes it is to actually kind of, again, take away the focus from the partner and nurture yourself first. And then maybe be, again, this kind of interest, like, this is important for me, what's important for you, to really create the mirroring, because that person might want to wake up too, but in another way, or that person might have another like understanding of waking up. So really kind of, this is what is truth for me, what is truth for you, this is inspiration for me, what's inspiration for you, to kind of have that. And then you're going to learn about yourself as well, because you'll answer the same questions as your partner, and maybe learn, because maybe that's important for you, but what's important for that other person, and how can you co-create in that space that is based on respecting each other, and not on blame and guilt, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we move through the archetypes, I think it would be really beneficial for you to kind of pinpoint and see what archetype is your partner. Because when you have that understanding, you know that the way they operate isn't the same, the things that they value isn't the same, and the way that you would approach them isn't the same. So for example, if you're the dancer archetype, what you're going to need, what you're going to respond best to is high frequency with no agenda. So you're going to have to keep having these conversations, but they can't be planned. It has to be like come up sporadically and be like, okay, in the moment, this is it's natural. Naturalness doesn't have an agenda. And so that's what the dancer archetype responds best to. So if you're with a dancer archetype, then they're going to need to have things come up multiple times, but not like, oh, tomorrow at 7 p.m., let's sit down and talk about this. It's like, no, whenever it comes up naturally in the moment, that's when you speak it. Speak what's on your heart, speak what's coming up. Because also what we're doing, the reason that we're moving through these archetypes is it's healing something. Each of them are healing something. The thing that's healing with the dancer archetype is the male and female, right? First we have one and then we have two. And so now we're really looking at the masculine and the feminine here, because the purpose is for them to unite. That's the whole purpose of this whole relationship series as well, is when you can find unity within you, and when your masculine and your feminine are able to come into divine union, you show up whole, healed, and complete. Like we said, come to the relationship independent and empowered, and say, I choose you because you add to, not because you complete, you add to. When we start expecting things from our partners, or saying, I want to dance and you don't want to dance, so it's your fault that we're not dancing, and I just want to, like, no, if they don't want to dance with you and you have this conversation with them, it's okay for you to possibly dance with somebody else, as long as you're having that conversation with them. It's all about transparency. And I think that a lot of times we assume that the other person, like, why wouldn't you understand what I'm saying? Why wouldn't you be on the same page as me? But people aren't as psychic as we think they are.
And I love
Even
that you're
people.
saying that, because it's like yesterday too. Remember, we are in the lower chakras. The lower chakras are self-centered. They are like more about me than you. So in one way, it's like, I want you in this relationship for me. Like there is still a little bit of like self-centeredness, a little bit of that. Like I'm in relationship for me, to learn about myself. That's kind of the ultimate goal for the second line. So that's kind of interesting too, to be, yeah, it's all about the relationship, but the relationship is kind of fulfilling a need that this archetype has. So to find a balance there for all the first three chakra, that they are here to be also connected to the heart, also connected to the we, meaning me, we. But that is a little bit of a problem for all the archetypes, whether they are more we or more me or we. It's like to always find that balance between me and the other, to be empowered by yourself and empowered together. So I'm seeing a question in the Q&A, and that, thank you for writing it there, because then it's even easier. So here it says, you talk about attracting the right partner for you. Is there any special relevance in the line of your attraction sphere? So now this is a technical, you could say, gene key question. We are speaking about an activation that has to do with the design moon in human design. I would say that we're instead of like when we're speaking about the lines, if you have a 2 in that sphere, of course that some of these things are going to come up, and they're going to be more connected when it comes to intimacy and sexuality. I feel more like that kind of energy, more like that magnetic energy. almost that works without you being conscious of it and without you being able to actually control it. Our attraction sphere is something that we don't, or attraction field, if you want to speak more in general sense, it's something that you don't really control. It's something that is in your aura, that comes from your imprinting. And that is going to have enormous, importance on like who you attract and what kind of dynamics that you're going to have inside your relationships and inside your sexuality and intimacy. So that there can always be kind of harmonic or disharmony depending on what kind of archetypes you have in your sexuality.
Mm-hmm. And if you have the Dancer in the attraction sphere, what you will often notice is it is going to be really sexual. It is going to be that magnetic attraction, that like fiery animal, like it's just passion. It's just like, that's like, let me just rip your clothes off. It's going to be very like physical, and let me just merge. I just want to merge. Like that's kind of how that's going to show up there. And if you do go and look and see where the Dancer is in your chart, you can start to weave. If you know anything about the spheres or know anything about the gates or the planets, I mean, you're going to be able to kind of weave the story differently depending on where it's placed. Yeah. What is Trina? Trina says, so when the Dancer is all about lower chakra and sex and having so much just not planned, how do you respond when they ask how to share, not being so objectifying? Are you talking about like carnal, like attraction type thing, or what is she trying to say? Or what is she saying?
I'm not really sure either. I mean, the second line, that's the whole different. It's like when you are only me, I want you for me, I want to eat you, I want to rip everything off you, then it's very self-centered. When you can include the heart, this is really, when it comes to sexuality, and we speak about this archetype, the key words would be lust or passion. When it's lust, it's just like, I'm hungry, I want to eat. And it's, I have needs that I have hunger, I have needs, and I want to eat. And when it comes to the higher expression, it's passion, and passion is really to include the heart. So it's me and we, and it's a win-win situation much more than if it's the low expression of lust.
Mm-hmm. Somebody posted in on our Facebook, suddenly I feel that dancers just look for a dancing partner, keeping their real deep feelings well kept for their next life. Looks like they are in a constant aware of getting hurt. It almost feels like, just like what you said, is if you can include the heart, that's where we're moving, is from the lower chakras to the upper chakras. And so the challenge for the Dancer would be to include the heart. Instead of it's like they know how to be in their body, and now they know how to be in their body with another person. Because with the Creator, it's all about being in your bones, being in your body, and then it's including another person. So it's two bodies coming together. But eventually we get to the hearts coming together, and nobody's all Dancer. We're not all Dancer, only Dancer. So we're going to need to access these different archetypes within us and say, okay, how can I bring my heart to this? That's where the transformation is going to happen. And I mean, my husband has the Dancer in his attraction sphere too, in his sexuality, and he's very like I just want sex and I want this and that. But that's because that's like the passion. That's what he wants in the relationship, in the energy. And I'm like way on the other end of the spectrum as well. And I'm more like energetic and like what's possible and idealistic and like all these other things. That's like, I don't want to just be in the body. The second line is so close to just being like the body and like interacting with the body that it doesn't even think about the energetics of it or the heart of it or including those things in it, because it's just so far away. And because that energy is so dynamic and so fiery, or not fiery, but like it's water here, but it's so passionate that that's what it's focused on. It's really hard to get that veil off because it's just so like, it's just so energetic there. Not energetic, but like physical. It's so physical. The hormones and everything is just going off.
Yeah, and also what you said in the beginning of the question, I do recognize that a bit too. I was with somebody who felt like sensitive and sweet, but after a while I felt like there was no depth. Like it was just this kind of, and everything had to be like, when things got a little bit difficult, I felt like there was no mirroring, there was no wanting to go there together. So that can probably be a shadow, since we speak about both the shadow and the healthy expression, to not want to go there when it's not a dance, when it's not comfortable, when it's not easy, when it's not natural. I don't want to go there. Let's wait to next live. I do recognize that in my own experience with the dancer archetype.
Yeah, and if we're going to go over the high, like just to recap the higher expression and the shadow expression, the higher expression of the dancer, it fills the role of the natural, and it's passionate. It brings in passion. But when it's in the shadow, it fills the role of the accuser, like we were saying. And what we're going to see from this person is disappointment. And usually that disappointment is directed in the other, because this is a sense of denial. I'm not going to see that really I'm disappointed in me. I'm going to see that I'm disappointed in you. And I'm going to project that on you, because the dance is all about projecting, right? And it's going to stir the pot. It's going to be the provoker, because what it wants is dynamism. It wants creativity. It wants to play. Well, not play. It just wants to be with the other person, right? When we start getting more of that energy, we move into the next archetype, where it is a lot about playing. This is about playing with like one partner, right? It's like you're very invested in the person you're dancing with, because that's the role you're playing right now. All right, let's see. Do you guys have any more questions or anything that you wanted to share in regards to the dancer archetype?
I mean, I feel like one keyword is boundaries too. That's important for this archetype, to have healthy boundaries. So one boundary is to be okay. It's okay to be picky. So that's a boundary. I don't want to dance with you, so I don't dance with you. But then also in a relationship, to kind of not be all consuming, like I need from you, I need from you. So it's really about knowing, feeling healthy boundaries. And if you have a lot of 2 in you, next week the sun is going to be transiting, or not even next week, I think it's starting today, it's going to transit the 7. And here, so for the next week in the collective, we have actually that activation of looking at your boundaries, feeling into your boundaries. Are they healthy or not? This is very important for all of us. So that's for me a key word, because with boundaries come this kind of courtesy or politeness, that we don't overstep the other. We can be wild, but our wildness is not going to hurt the other. That's what I feel for the dancer. We want the dancer to be wild. We want it to be not combed completely like straight hair. We want it to be like, we want it to be alive. When it's alive, it's beautiful. And when we can treat it like, when we can treat it with our own, when 2 beings can meet in naturalness, there is almost nothing more beautiful.
Yeah. And like you were saying, like the hair cannot be, it needs to be like wild and crazy and like just natural. Whatever it wants to be, it's going to be. And there's something too about where the creator is more about like the bones, right? And the dancer is about the fluidity, and it needs to be flexible. As soon as the dancer starts to get rigid, it's not really expressing itself. It wants to be fluid in its expression. And when it like just gets rigid, nothing can flow from it. And a lot of time too, now that we were saying that there is, I mean, it will go into aggression, it will go into blame, it will go into projection, it will go into accusing, right? But that's because the way that it escapes the hard situations or its own disappointment is by acting like it's superior. I'm better than you. I didn't make a mistake. You made a mistake. That's not me. Why'd you do that? When clearly they're doing it. Why did you do that? I don't know. That was a mistake. You shouldn't have done that. I know somebody, actually my mom's boyfriend, it's so funny. Anytime like he's doing anything with somebody and there's like a mistake made and he makes a mistake, he's like, wow, you shouldn't have done that. But he was the one with like the wrench in his hand, and he's like, I can't believe you just broke that. And I was like, wait, you're the one with the wrench. I'm not doing anything. And all the time. But it protects the person from feeling like that disappointment of themselves, because they're just hiding from their own disappointment. Oh crap, I messed up, right? Because nobody sees your mistakes when you're in private, but when you're with another, they're seeing it. And so they don't want to disappoint the other. They don't want to disappoint themselves. They don't want to make that mistake. We're kind of, I mean, we're moving into the next archetype as well, I feel, but they kind of flow with each other, right? They build. And so as we're shifting, we're moving to the other archetypes. but definitely they just like to blame all over the place. So if you're a dancer archetype, start being mindful of the ways that you project the blame or you accuse the other person when something difficult comes up.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be important to bring that mindfulness together.
And I have a German friend who has this as the main archetype. And when he lived in Germany, he was depressed. He was really, to live in a society like that and to live in an apartment in Berlin, it really wasn't. He couldn't be a dancer there. And then he started to go to different festivals and started to go to India every year and to Bali and to just have a nomad life. And now when you see him, he's kind of a guru. He has kind of that, because he's so laid back. And he, in those environments where other Europeans would be like, oh my God, like Iron Ball, or like, you know, where other normal people would feel like out of their element, he's so natural. So, and there's so much peace inside of him because he is able to be in that naturalness. So it's very, I would say that also environment can be very important. What's the environment that make you feel natural? Pick that environment. You're allowed to pick, because nobody wants you to be disappointed and accusing everybody. We prefer that you're actually in your element and that you share that. There's something with another keyword is inspirational. Like when this archetype is in their right element, they are going to just be trusting about life. And that trust, when other people see that, feel that inherent trust, they are going to be inspired by the same thing we were saying yesterday. There's like a lighthouse in the first archetype. Here we really see this person who seems to be in complete trust with the flow of life. That's also something very, very like beautiful that we can get inspired by. So that's how we can look at the dancer archetype and be like, wow, I wish I had that much trust. I wish I was like that.
But the opposite end of the spectrum is sometimes these people will fall into like needing to control everything. So with that rigidness, they're also going to want to control the other, control the life, control everything, because there's a deep fear of falling out of naturalness. So they're going to try to create really rigid boundaries. Mm-hmm. Michelle was saying, can boundaries create a retreat to hermitage and isolation? For sure, if your boundaries are super tight and there's no like merging at all, there's no way that the other can get in. And that's like self-preservation as well. A lot of people create these boundaries because they're trying to guard their heart, they're trying to guard their innocence, they're trying to guard whatever it is they're guarding, because at some point they weren't mirrored. Mm-hmm. They did not have the opportunity to have true mirroring, and their feelings and thoughts and everything didn't matter. It was the creator, that just wanted to everything's my way or the highway, get out of my way. And so it wasn't open to mirroring or merging or even hearing the other person's side. So it was shut down. And so if your opinions and thoughts and emotions aren't valued, then like, why would you share it? And so you're not going to have the biofeedback loop or the true sharing of any of those, because you're going to stop at the boundary, because you know it's not even received anyways. Mm-hmm. So that's the defense mechanism of the dancer. It's like, I won't dance with anyone. I'm a dancer, but I'm not going to dance with anybody because nobody wants my dance anyways. And maybe your dance is completely different than somebody else's dance. Maybe it's like so unique and people just are not accepting of it. And so instead of being disappointed, you don't do it at all. So to preserve your feeling of disappointment, like, oh, they don't want to dance with me, you just don't even like ask or don't even share or don't even dance. Your naturalness doesn't come out at all. It's hidden. It's hermit. It's isolation. It's in the boundaries. And what a shame. What a shame for the dancer to never dance. What a shame for the dancer to never be mirrored. What a shame for the dancer to never really have true unity and partnership. So sad. Yeah. And that's where you start seeing the shutting down. Either these people are going to get super aggressive and super angry and super hostile, and they're going to like, they just want recognition. The dancer just wants to be recognized for its naturalness. If it's not going to get that recognition, then you better believe if it's in the aggressive, it's going to be like walking out the door saying like, well, you don't care about me anyways, but super loud. Like, so, oh, I don't care about, they're going to be super loud about it, or they're going to just like hide, right? It's either going to be repressive or reactive. But you better believe if the dancer is upset, they're going to make a scene. You don't care about me anyways. Walking out the door, slamming the door really hard. That's the dancer. Oh, I feel for the dancer though. All right. Well, I mean, do you have anything else to add? I feel like I don't want to push it. I don't want to like try to draw any more from the marrow. It feels like a lot's already come out through here. Do you have anything else that you want to say?
No, I mean, I feel like all the keywords, everything that's important, both the healthy and the shadow sides, I feel like we've really covered a lot today. And also understanding that it's very, like, this is what I want you to feel into. There is like really inherent differences. Like we are speaking about very different dynamics in those archetypes, and more than like it's good to have an archetype, because then, like Ashley was saying last time, you can step into it and kind of feel how does it feel to be in the embodying this. But really it's about dynamics, and this week we're speaking about those dynamics in relationship. We could do exactly the same thing with archetypes and speak about them in business. This is how archetype the creator is in business. This is how the dancer is in business. We could do it like even narrow it down and say just sexuality whether it's with yourself or with a partner. Wherever it is, we could use those archetypes and then see. And this week we're focusing on relationship dynamics, which is one of like the most fun places, because it really, I feel like it really makes us understand and see ourselves better. And also why you can be in one relationship and the dynamics and the problem or issues are like, you know, kind of, you know exactly what they are. These three main issues, this is absolutely. And then you go to another relationship and maybe it's exactly the same things, but many times, at least in my life, I'm like, my God, with this relationship, it's completely different. It's these three things or these two things. And I'm like, okay, this was last year, this is this year. How come, like, it's not that I have changed a ton, but with this person, these were the main issues. And I know that it's a co-creation. It's not that I'm like, it's only the other person, but with that co-creation, the relationship, the dynamic, depending on what archetypes we have in us, will look very, very different. So what we are doing now is shining light a little bit too highlighted almost, so that we start to see those dynamics. Because the first step really, as we were saying yesterday, is the awareness of what's going on, and to be able to observe what's going on without drowning in it. When you can observe it from a place of being in your inner strength and not be swayed around, you can start to allow these dynamics to somehow heal, dissolve, clear, and that's really the first step. So what we are doing now is just shining light on it, make it come up to the surface, becoming more aware, and then things can happen. We are speaking about things that make the cells and the DNA actually, like anytime Ash and I come on, it has to do with our imprinting, with our conditioning. And when we start to look at it, there are things that shift and start to move. So I mean, I feel like even if this is quite in one way basic, this can really help us to become more aware and to start shifting things in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was amazing, Bella. And before we go, we have one more question, and then I wanted to give you some like potions or keys or antidotes, the things that are going to heal the spirit of the dancer. So we had somebody, David mentioned on Facebook, what's the difference between, and this is again a technical thing, between the 6-2 and the 2-6. So if the dancer is conscious versus an unconscious dancer, conscious dancer versus unconscious dancer, how would that kind of show up? Or what's the difference? Because it looks like one of them, they're both dancers, right? But one's in different places.
I mean, I would, yeah, so Lisa had a similar question. I would really, for this week, kind of maybe not go so much into the mechanics. When we speak about profile in human design, or we speak about activation sequence in the gene keys, it's like the number that you have first. So if you say 2-4 or 6-2, the number you have first is going to be the most apparent. That's what you first can see in somebody. When you come a little closer and you get to know the person, the soul is going to speak. So it's the second one that's going to come up a lot. But then, like we were saying in the gene keys, there are different spheres. So sexually, you're probably going to feel a lot of the attraction sphere. When it comes to work and how the person serves the world, you're going to go into the culture sphere. So really there is a lot of like, there are a lot of layers, but really the most simple place to look at is the profile. And there you're going to have two numbers, and the first one is going to be more apparent. The second one is probably going to be even more powerful, because that's the soul speaking. But you're going to have to know, the person's going to have to want to open their soul a little bit more and share at that level. Otherwise you might never even feel that. Maybe you're just going to feel a bit of the shadow frequency, because both are in the shadow when you don't want to open up your heart and your soul.
Mm-hmm. That was a great response. Okay, so as we talked about before, when the dancer's in the shadow, it's going to blame the other. It's going to be the accuser. It's going to fill the role of the accuser, and it's going to act like it's superior. It's going to have the superiority complex. And the way that we're going to heal that spirit is, you're just going to have, it's all about bringing the heart, like Bella said. You love the other person. You just need to first love yourself, then love the other person. So love is what is going to help you kind of like calm and come back into that naturalness. Another thing is that we're going to need to come out of the self-denial and want to relate. You have to choose to relate, choose to be in the relationship. So it is a choice. It's always a choice. Sometimes we'll see the dancer kind of fall back and be like, I'll just dance on my own, or I won't dance at all. So you have to choose to relate. And you also have to see your self-denial. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Right? But what's going to happen is you're going to be blaming the other person until you start observing the blame, and then you'll be like, oh man, okay, I'm denying my own disappointment with myself, or I'm denying where I'm looking at myself and saying, oh, you know, they can't accept themselves fully, so they're going to just blame the other person. And then what's going to bring you into healing is just relax. Just relax, get into this space of ease. Like, instead of holding on like this, you're going to want to just open your hands, and you're going to want to soften. You're just going to just relax, allow that naturalness to come through. And that's where you're going to get that sense of freedom as well. So it's just about attuning yourself to the flow, to the naturalness. It's not super hard either. It's just, you have to stop fighting the current. It's just relax and let it be, let it come through you. Would you add anything else, Bella?
No, I love that. And I also, for you that are into Jinkies and human design, and the questions that we had from David and Lisa, I would say that hopefully the last day we're going to get in a little bit more to profile, like what can the combination of those lines be if you have them in you. So kind of bear with us to the last day, and then we are going to because if you're with us all week, definitely I think you're kind of interested in this, and you're probably already going to want to go into human design and Jinkies, or already be in it. So but let us kind of isolate them and really feel into them. Put on the costume to tomorrow. Like, how does it feel to be the natural until tomorrow? And then you're going to have a new archetype to embody for 24 hours. And then let's do that. And then we can play with more about really how it shows up on the last
really
day
good
together.
advice. That's how you approach the archetypes. And if you're familiar with our 64 Doors project, every single time something comes in transit, you're going to want to wear the archetype or you're going to want to wear the costume of that archetype. So before you start to say, oh, I'm this kind of profile, so I'm this and this, don't put them together yet. Remember, as we're moving up the lines, up the archetypes, it was one before there was two. So allow yourself to be in one. We're in investigation. We're investigating this. We're gathering all the information, and we're still in the kind of self-obsessed first, second, third archetype. So allow yourself to be there. You don't have to try to like put them together and be like, how can I save my marriage, my relationship with this? Like, we're not even there yet. You need to save yourself first. Stay with yourself. It's worth it. It's worth it to love yourself. It's worth it to uncover these patterns. Then it will be worth it to be in the relationship. But you have to know that you're worth it first before you decide to save the marriage, to save the relationship, to come into this divine union. You're not going to have that unless you choose yourself first. So, and you have to attune yourself to your own naturalness. So like Bella said, you need to allow for yourself to come into that wildness of your own spirit, of your own creativity. You're going to need to find your naturalness and your flow, and you're going to have to stand for something, right? being too much in the flowy nature of things is fine and great, but eventually you're going to have to say, like, this is what I desire, this is what I want, and this is what we're bringing you towards. That's what you're going to understand in the sixth archetype as well, is like, what is your vision, what is your dream, what is your goal, what is this? But I feel like allow yourself to have a chance to really connect with these archetypes, because it's going to allow you to come into unity with all of them in you. You're not just one. You're not just the dancer. You're all of them. So it's just like having 6 children. You really need to give each of them their individual time. Don't just be like, yeah, I know who you are. Okay, that's fine. Go away. That poor dancer. It wants your attention. Really, the dancer wants your recognition the most out of all of them, and it doesn't get it the most. So it's pretty sad. But stick with it. It's worth it. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us for day 2. The replay will go out tonight, and you'll get, again, the 3rd archetype tomorrow morning. If you have not signed up for, if you have not registered, just go bit.ly/venuswork, VENUS work, and that's how you're going to be signing up. And hopefully you're getting the emails. If not, don't worry, at the end you'll have everything. I promise, at one point or another you'll have all of them. So thank you so much for joining Bella and I, and we look forward to moving forward with this relationship breakthrough series. So thank you so much.
Thank you.